Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Lisa Rodacher. I am the Assistant Dean for Admissions here at WNL Law. It's a real pleasure to be with you today, and it's also a pleasure to welcome back some faces from our recent graduating classes here at WNL Law. Really excited to have these young alum share their stories with you about their professional trajectory and how they got to where they are, some experiences that have helped them along the way. So we have a great group of panelists for you today. I'm mostly going to serve as the moderator of the chat, so please feel free to utilize the Q&A or the chat feature as we go forward today. We have some really great comments by our students and some questions that we prepared in advance, some that were sent in advance, so thank you for those. But we want to make sure that this is as helpful to you as possible, so we do want to incorporate your live questions. So having said all that, I am going to turn things over to my colleague, Dean Sarah Hughes, and she will take things from here.
Hi, everyone. Like Lisa said, my name is Sarah Hughes, and I'm the Assistant Dean for Law School Advancement. And so our office heads up development efforts here at WNL Law, and I meet far and wide with law alumni across the country. I was just talking to someone in San Francisco yesterday. We have alumni up in Maine. I was in Florida a few weeks ago visiting with alumni. So we have a very, very large alumni network and very loyal alumni network. And I'm very honored to be here today and to meet some new faces to me. I previously worked at the law school from 2003 to 2016 and had a little time away, but I'm back because I just love this place and really enjoy connecting with our law alumni. So with that, I just wanted to make sure everyone is introduced. So Kathy, I'm going to start with you. And if you could just, we'll go around and do some introductions. Thanks for coming today.
Yeah, so I see the introductions kind of have your name, class year, and hometown. So my name is Kathy McLaughlin. I am originally from Seattle, Washington. I graduated WNL Law in 2019. I went to Washington State University, go Cougs, for undergrad, and I had to throw that in there. And I majored in strategic communications and worked in marketing before coming to law school. And I do something very different now. I am a public defender in Colorado. I am also the county court supervisor here. And so that means that I train any new attorney that comes through our office as well. So I will handle anything from driving without a valid driver's license, which is a maximum of 10 days to jail, up to, on my caseload right now, is homicide, so life in prison cases. So I do a lot of things. I've been here for almost 5 years now, which is incredibly crazy. But I was involved in a lot of organizations at WNL, a lot of criminal mind organizations. I think the Public Defense Law Group, I helped start one of the panels when public defenders come and talk. That was one of my things that I did while I was in law school. I really love PD work and wanted WNL to have more of that as well. I was in the criminal justice clinic there. So I worked on cases my entire 3L year in the CJC. I was also in the Women's Law Students Organization, in the Public Interest Law Student Organization. So I have participated in a lot of things at WNL. I don't think I can remember them all, but yeah, happy to answer any questions about PD work.
Ben, we'll go to you next.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Ben Halligan. I'm from the class of 2023. I'm originally from Nutley, New Jersey. For undergraduate, I went to Colgate University in upstate New York. And at WNL, I was primarily involved in, I was a law ambassador. So I gave a lot of tours. And also, I was co-president of the Sports Czars. So if you come to Law School Football League on Friday afternoons, the Czars will be the ones who organize that. And also, I was a member of the German Law Journal at WNL. Right now, I'm a first-year associate at Sherman and Sterling in New York, and I'm on the derivatives team within the firm.
Thank you, Ben. Sports Czars are very important to the life of the law school. So, Trey, I'll go with you next.
Hey, everyone. My name is Trey Smith. I'm part of the class of 2022. I'm originally from St. John's, Antigua, but I came to the States for to start undergrad in 20, I guess that was 2011. Um, in terms of my undergrad institution, I went to the University of Virginia, and at WNL, I was involved mostly with the moot court board and participating in as a competitor as a 2L. And I was also involved for all 3 years with the Black Law Students Associations and several other of the affinity groups that we had at WNL. Right now, I am a second-year associate at Troutman Pepper, which is in their Richmond office. And my practice focuses on mostly regulatory items and related investigations. And I'm excited to talk and kind of catch up with some old classmates and tell you a little bit about our experience.
Great, thank you. We have one more to introduce, so I'll let it go right over to you, Jessica. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries at all. I can't change my name ever on these Zooms. But my name is Jessica Matsuda. I go by Sika, so most people know me by that. I was in Ben's class here, so we were class of 2023 together, which was great. We were in the same section, the best one. I am from Windsor, California. I went to the University of Richmond for undergrad, and while I was at law school, I did a whole lot of things. I did moot court board, which was really, really wonderful. I competed a lot in the competitions and then was the chair of one of them. And Trey was actually the person who hosted all my competitions. So every time I see him, I feel like I have to compete. I was on the law review at WNL. I was the president of Outlaw, which is the LGBTQ plus student organization. And then like Kathy, my absolute favorite thing was being a part of the criminal justice clinic in my third year. So I can answer any questions about that.
Great. Thank you, everyone. With such a variety of experiences and perspectives. But I'd love to know, like, what do you enjoy most about your current professional role? And I'll start with Kathy again. We'll just keep going around, Kathy.
Yeah,
we'll just go in that
no
order.
worries. Yeah, I didn't know I wanted to be a poetry runner when I went to law school, and then had an internship my 2L summer here in Colorado, and was immediately like, this is what I was kind of meant to do, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I love being in a courtroom. So big litigator. I love going to jury trial. I love standing up next to my client and using the law to really benefit my client in a way that I think prosecutors and judges might not use it, right? And being able to stand next to someone when it could be the worst day of their life, when they get charges, or the scariest day when they're sitting in a jury trial and 12 strangers are really, judging them on their life, and being that one person in the courtroom that is standing up next to them is what keeps me going, honestly, and being able to provide representation. I do rural practice as well. So I'm in a really rural jurisdiction, and I think rural practice is incredibly important. And when I originally started here, I was like, I don't know about this rural area, but now I've been here 5 years. I can't imagine doing any sort of practice, because I think rural jurisdiction is really special. And sometimes you are the only attorney within a 100-mile radius in the courtroom, and you're the only person who can stand up for these individuals who don't know what's happening to them, and they're, getting yelled at by a judge, or getting yelled at by a DA, or the police are arresting them unconstitutionally. And you're the one person in that 100-mile radius that can, come, I guess I don't want to say come to the rescue, but like be able to stand up and like represent someone. And I love training new attorneys too. So that's my second thing, as being a county court supervisor. I was watching court this morning and teamsing some of my new attorneys on like, hey, use the statute, or being able to kind of provide some of that insight to younger attorneys is really exciting for me too. So yeah, I could go on and on, but I'll be short.
Ben will go to a not so rural area, but with you.
Midtown Manhattan is not the most rural place on earth. But I guess so, to continue with what I enjoy most about my professional role, I'm in like I said, the financial derivatives practice, and the thing I love most about it is most likely it's probably that it's very analytical and can almost be like a puzzle at times. And a lot of my clients are banks and companies who are looking to trade with one another, and sort of my team will negotiate the deals and set up the legal structure through which they're allowed to trade. And it's really cool to see a deal develop from scratch and be able to solve the million issues that arise during that, whether it be the preferences of each side of the deal or legal issues that arise during it to make sure kind of everything is within compliance. And so I came in not having much experience with this particular field, but I knew that it was something that I could really enjoy. And so it's been a really fun challenge to sort of come in not knowing a ton, but knowing that I really enjoy sort of analytical, like puzzle solving, like I said, and sort of learning on the fly at times. And that's been a huge challenge, but that's also been what's made it really fun.
Great. Okay, Trey, we'll just keep going around.
Cool. Yeah, I would echo a lot of Ben's sentiment on in terms of what I enjoy about my role. Um, as a regulatory lawyer, I'm pretty much servicing clients who are experiencing some cutting edge regulatory issue. And it's really fun because in a lot of cases, there's no clear answer. So it leaves a lot of room for creativity and for novel arguments and to, just kind of gnaw on really sophisticated problems and try and do your best to come up with a solution for your client and to kind of argue before the regulators why exactly, the case should be resolved in their favor. It's also fun to work on such large matters because you get to work in teams, which has been a really cool experience for me. Law school can be a little bit siloed and individual at a lot of times, maybe less so on if you're on journals and kind of passing papers between each other. But to be working on these interdependent teams and to produce work products that is significantly better than what you could have done alone and learning from others has been a really rewarding experience as well. So yeah, that's kind of what I've enjoyed so far.
That's great. It's great when you get to work together across different offices and teams. It's always a nice thing. So, okay, we'll go with you.
Yeah, I'll echo a lot of that. And I realize I forgot to say what I actually do now. I'm also a first year associate at Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher, which is a law firm in DC, and I practice in our litigation group. One thing I really like is I just get to see a lot of variety. We don't really have traditional practice groups. Like everybody kind of floats and is picked up whatever work that they want. So I get to kind of keep my practice broad right now. I still do corporate criminal work, which is really interesting for me because, as Kathy knows, in CJC, we were like really like rural lawyers, like defending one person. And now I defend entire companies when they mess things up. And I also get to do some civil litigation. I get to do some investigations, which I also really love. So that's one thing that I think law school really helped me prepare for that because you have to take so many classes at the same time that have nothing to do with each other. And that's still what my brain does today.
Thank you. I know there are a lot of surprises in your first few years of practice, but what has surprised you the most in your practice area?
I think I'm just gonna assume I'm first. Awesome. Yep. Gosh, I feel like so much. You learn so much every day. Like I'm learning something new still about cases that I've handled. And I think about like my first year as a public defender and maybe some of the plea deals I took or some of the things that I did in a jury trial I wouldn't necessarily do today. And sometimes you think you know the issue really well, and then all of a sudden a new case comes and there's we call them sexy facts in our office. Like you got a cool case that's got some sexy facts. And so, we workshop those around the office, and like sometimes I swear like every day I'm learning something new, and I don't know if that like surprised me, but it does every day when I'm like, oh wow, that's a cool novel issue that I haven't heard before, and I need to do this like litigation. Or sometimes also like reading cases. I know how sometimes that's really boring in law school. Like you're doing that on every class, just reading cases over and over and over, and you're like, why am I doing this? I have one massive motion to suppress and like won my client's cases on like a footnote that I found in a case from like the, United States Supreme Court that matched my facts. And so what surprised me is like the transition of like, wow, I kind of hate reading cases sometimes in law school, to now in practice, I'm like, hell yeah, give me a case that has something that's really cool that's going to help my client in a footnote or in the dissent, or you're carving new law because you're appealing decisions. And we have a great appellate office that handles our appeals in Colorado. So I work hand in hand with them, but don't necessarily do appeals. And learning from them is really cool. So a skill you learn in law school, I think, that I thought, I don't know why I'm going to have to do so much of this when I'm going to be in a courtroom litigating, has actually turned into something that I do. I read cases daily and try to find things that can help my client. So I think always learning, I guess that would probably surprise me maybe the most. Maybe that seems like a dumb answer, but yeah.
It's funny how those things end up surprising you, in the classroom, and here you are. So Ben, how about you?
Yeah, to sort of echo what Kathy said about learning and what Sika said about variety of work, what has been really surprising to me in a positive way is sort of how unique every assignment I've gotten so far is. I sort of expected I expected it to be a little redundant once I started, but every assignment that I've gotten has been completely different from the others. And so, a partner can call me on any given day and be like, okay, the client wants to trade oil futures in Venezuela. Let's figure out how we're going to do it. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do it, but by the end of the deal, I will. And so it's sort of get cracking and kind of figure out what issues can we foresee, what maybe not, and sort of learning how to get whatever particular assignment I've been given that day, kind of get that accomplished. And even if there's unrest somewhere else in the world and it affects a client's business in some way, a trade that they've gotten, those things can kind of come out of the blue, and it's something that I've never seen before. And so I view that as a great learning experience because I haven't ever. I'm sure that the assignment will come that I have seen before, but as of now, every single one has been a huge learning opportunity. And so I'm sort of trying to view it as a chance to be a sponge and kind of amass as much knowledge as I can in my first year.
Great, thank you. Okay, Trey, what is the
I think the biggest surprise for me has just been understanding the difference between law school and the actual practice. And one element of that is by working in a firm, you are providing legal services. And so that's a totally different ball game than just showing up and reading cases or writing a memo once or twice a semester and turning it in. Kind of what sort of how Ben was describing it. We receive these problems and we have to manage cases and kind of go step by step through the resolution to achieve an outcome. And it takes a whole different skill set to do that effectively. A lot of the same ones, don't get me wrong, a lot of overlap, but it is still something that, did take a little bit of time for me to understand that it was its own thing and to develop those skills, and still am every day. So
Thank you. Okay. It's like, what are your thoughts? What are the surprises?
Yeah, I completely agree with what everyone has said. I mean, just the threshold between law school and being a lawyer is so big. And I think WNL does a pretty good job or a particularly good job of preparing you. Because I was really surprised by the amount of responsibility you're given immediately as a first year. I'm like, I don't feel qualified to do any of this. Like if someone said oil future to me, I would have to Google that because I have no idea what that is. But a lot of by virtue of the fact that WNL is small, like a lot of our classes force you to speak. And I think that's an important skill because you will be, whatever practice you do, whether it's litigation or not, you have to be able to kind of say your opinions and back them up, which has been surprising to me.
Yeah, I know WNL with its small class sizes. I mean, that's something every alum I meet with, they just love that. But it is hard to hide, but that makes you a little better lawyer, I think, too. So, what classes or experiences from law school have you found to be particularly helpful in your in your current role? Kathy.
Yeah, it's really actually fun. I just had a conversation with a WNL, I believe, prospective student or current student. I kind of love talking to anyone who wants to be a public defender, so I do it quite often, or as many times as WNL will let me do it. I told this student, and I tell everyone, I have trained now, I've been here 5 years, so I've seen incoming class. We get new attorneys every August and January. And every law school, we talk about how, you know, what your experience was in law school, or if you've had experience. The best thing that WNL did for me, and I didn't even know it at the time, was the amount of practicum experience you get. When I went into a courtroom for the first time on my first day with my first case as a public defender, that was not the first time I was before a judge. And that was because WNL gave me so many opportunities. Even fake judges, you know, in mock trial, or, you know, you take trial advocacy. And every single time I like think back on where I kind of had a foot up above like my colleagues in starting, is that when I was in the courtroom on a real case, it wasn't my first time. And I think that is huge. And I think WNL does a fantastic job. And I like praise, and when anyone wants to go there and says they want to be a public defender, I'm like, you got to do CJC, you got to do trial advocacy, you've got to do mock trial, you've got to do the immigration course. I know Professor Shapiro had a practicum that I took as well. And I just played a witness for him because his class coincided with another class that I was in. And even just playing the witness and seeing my fellow classmates pretend to be prosecutors or pretend to be public defenders was huge. So I think you can't like go wrong with the practicum experience and taking advantage of that, especially if you want to be a litigator. So I think that was huge for me, and just the professors as well. I still, you know, hear from Professor Shapiro, and I get dinner when he comes to Colorado with him, and it's really exciting to like catch up, because he was the first person who helped me. I had to do a bond argument for my internship with Colorado, and I got this like stack of paper from Colorado, which now I know how to do in like 2 seconds. And can like do these bond arguments without really thinking about it. But back then as a 2L, I was like, what is a CPAT? What does this mean? What does this do? And Professor Shapiro sat down with me for an hour and a half and just like went through the documents and crafted my bond argument with me. And then I had like a sticky note around my computer on like points that he made sure to like bring up during this bond argument. So I think not only classes, but the professors like really willing to go above and beyond for you and prepare you in ways you didn't even think or know you needed to be prepared for to like be successful in your career. So
That's great. I talked to so many alums who have been out 20, 30 years and still call or email randomly a law professor about something. And that they are so, I know they have been very accessible to so many students, but I love when alumni say, oh, I was just emailing with this professor the other day. And some of them are new professors too, but they've developed a rapport. So anyway, Ben, I'll let you go next.
Okay, great. The experience that I found most helpful was my time in the low-income taxpayer clinic. And so a bit of background, the tax clinic serves clients in Virginia in their post-filing controversies with the IRS and the Virginia Department of Taxation. And the coolest thing about it is that it operated as its own little sort of independent law firm. And Dean Drumble and Professor Kari Monroe were basically the partners and we were the associates. And it was really cool because I got to represent clients on my own and go to Professor Monroe and say, you know, this is the issue, this is what I think we should do. And a lot of times she would have suggestions, but a lot of times she would just say, okay, great, that sounds awesome, go for it. And it was so helpful because it gave me practical knowledge, like, you know, how to file something, you know, with the IRS or a state tax department, but also it helped me with a bunch of little intangibles, like, for instance, how to properly bill your time, which if you end up in a law firm is very important, which I had no idea how important it was with how specific and how prompt you have to be with your billing and everything, but also other things like if you have a problem that you want to bring to your superior, I didn't know that it was best practice to come having demonstrated that you've already attempted to solve the problem on your own, and if possible, you know, bring a proposed solution and say, this is what I think is the answer, what do you think, rather than just going to your superior and saying, you know, I have a problem, what do you think I should do? And this is all sort of part of WNL's experiential learning program that all students partake in. And while not everyone is part of a clinic, they do other things. For instance, clerk for a judge during a 3L year. And because everybody goes through this and it's a graduation requirement, everyone kind of gets this leg up when they go into the working world. And so I think that we are sort of much more prepared when we first start practice as opposed to our peers, because a lot of times other people are just kind of experiencing real world lawyering for the first time, whereas we spent a good chunk of our 3L year having gone through an experience that kind of gives us insight into what real world practice looks like.
That is great. The clinics are amazing, and that tax clinic I really think it's been a great resource for so many in Virginia as well. Okay, Trey, your thoughts?
The experiences personally that were the most impactful would probably have been my participation with the moot court board, and just as a competitor as well. It sort of put all the skills you learned during your first year of law school into practice. You have your brief writing for moot court, your oral advocacy in pretty much all the competitions. And then by volunteering on the board as a third year, I watched so many different rounds that it really gave me a sense of like what is effective, or at least reinforced a sense of what is effective and what is not from a oral presentation perspective and from a written work product perspective. I also really enjoyed all of my business law classes. So business associations, UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, both can sort of feel intimidating to people, particularly if you don't have a sort of like commercial background or any interest in business law. But I think it's just such an important part of the world we live in, and having even just like a baseline understanding of how things happen in our economy is just infinitely invaluable. And it's like you can either learn it in the weeks before you study for the bar, or you can take the time when you're in school and have a little bit more freedom to explore. So I would recommend the latter, but those are by far the most helpful things for me personally and for my practice. That might change for each student, but
yeah, I think I like how you said competitor a couple times. I think there's such a good, healthy competition here. I'm sure you all experience that in different ways. But anyway, so Sika, I'll let you round out this question.
Yeah, Trey stole mine because I loved moot
I'm so
courts.
sorry.
It's okay. And like Trey put on all the competitions when I was a 2L, so they were all amazing. It really helped me. I got to the finals of one of the appellate advocacy competitions where you argue in front of a panel of real judges. And then the next year I had to argue in front of the Fourth Circuit. So that actually like really helped me in law school to be able to do that. I think the new thing I'll add, and I literally cannot let any conversation about WNL go by without mentioning our legal research and writing classes. They're just so important. You would be shocked. Maybe this should have been my shocking answer question about how many lawyers cannot write. And it's unethical maybe, but WNL has I had a really good legal writing professor that Ben also had. And it sincerely puts you apart from other people and like puts you in a better place to serve your client. And all 1Ls are required to do that. And I think it's probably the most useful class I've ever taken, just generally.
I hear to this day that legal writing continues to be one of their favorite classes. I think surprises a lot of people. But I worked in admissions here at the law school before Lisa, and one of my favorite things was, we would talk to students and they were thinking, oh, I'm going to do environmental law. I'm really into this. And they get here and then you see them drifting off into tax or in some other area. So did you all know coming in, like you wanted to be a public defender, Kathy, or, how did that shift and evolve for each of you? And maybe you've been on one path, which is fine. But maybe, things changed in that first year.
Yeah, I came into law school and did not know what I wanted to do. So like I went in being like, I have no clue. I'm here to like study the law. Let's figure it out. Like I just knew I worked in corporate America, and this is not me like trying to rag on any of the, big firms, but I knew I didn't want to do that. So like, that's the one thing I could X out. I didn't want to go to the corporate world. I did the corporate world before law school. I wanted to do something different. And then I keep talking about Professor Shapiro, but I was assigned really him as a professor for my criminal law class, my 1L fall. And I just like thought it was so fun and hearing about his stories. And he, would use real life examples when he was and still is a defense attorney. And then I, in my small section, met this woman. She's a colleague of mine now. She works in the Boulder office here in Colorado. So we see each other and can email each other and meet up. But she told me, you should try like public defense. Like you should figure out if that's what you want to do. I did not do that my 1L summer, and I wish I did. But I, went in, and then 2L summer was like, okay, I really got to focus on criminal law. I've got to do this. And I started really focusing on that. And so if you don't know what you want to do when you come to law school, it's totally okay. And I know people who have left law school and have changed careers or, have decided they want to do different things. So even if you don't know, it's really okay. And you will find classes that are really interesting to you, or professors who are kind of willing to guide you or talk to you about what practice really looks like. But yeah, I just think my experience with the criminal law professors and my classmate, Lauren, who, again, she's someone who I credit as wanting to be a public defender. And we have a good cohort of WNL students here in Colorado. So we all kind of talk to each other and know each other from WNL, even when we didn't go to school together. Lauren and I did. But yeah, I think it's okay to not know. So I'm the person who can really tell you that that's okay, and you'll figure it out, and you can trial and error. And that's what I did. My 1L summer did some trial and error, and then landed on PD work and have been doing that since. So happy to answer questions about that.
Trial and error is a very helpful process. So Ben, how about you?
Yeah, so I think it's great when students come into law school with a concrete and specific idea of what they want to do, but I also think it's great if they don't. I personally was definitely in the latter category. I came in knowing that I probably wanted to be on the transactional side of things, but I had no idea what that would look like specifically. And even my second and third year, when I was giving tours, and prospective students would say, I'm worried. I don't really know exactly what I want to do yet. And I would say, great, me neither. Like I really wanted to sort of explore my options. And so I took a bunch of different business classes to sort of see what I thought may appeal to me, whether it be M&A or bankruptcy or tax. And then when I was a summer associate at my firm, I rotated between groups. And through all of those experiences, I was able to kind of pinpoint two possible groups that I thought really appealed to me. And then that's kind of how I landed in the financial derivatives group. But I really, your plan right now, as confident as you may be in it, there's a great chance that it does end up working that way. But there's also a chance that things change, and that's sort of what law school is all about: learning as much as you can, and sort of seeing what appeals to you. And so yeah, so it's really great, I think, to be open to those new ideas and new possibilities, and it kind of gives you a certain flexibility as you progress through law school and then into your career.
Great, thank you. Trey, how about you?
So I came in with sort of an idea of what I wanted to do. I had done mock trial as an undergrad at UVA. So, I had that kind of experience that made me feel like, oh, I want to be a litigator. I was also a real estate paralegal in the year between law school and undergrad. So I kind of felt like, okay, I also understood that maybe it would be a good idea to continue just building on my knowledge base there in law school. And, I think as Ben and Kathy have hit on this point, it just kind of changes, like more and more exposure. I ended up in this particular practice group, in the regulatory group, pretty much by happenstance during my second year. During my summer associate experience, we were just given the opportunity to go into a portal and pull a bunch of assignments and do whatever you kind of wanted to do. And that kind of got me interfacing with some of the team here at Trauman who, are routinely before regulators, in particular state attorneys generals. And, I was working on a memo, big case kind of analysis for this lender. And I thought it was just really, really cool. And I've been here ever since. So not at all what I expected to be doing. And, I spent a significant amount of my time representing utilities as well, which is like something I just never, thought I would get involved with. But I enjoy it for all the reasons I mentioned earlier. It's complex, it's challenging, and I get to work with a bunch of really smart people. So it's great. So if you have, like Ben said, if you have something in mind, great when you come in. But if you don't, that's also fine, and just stay open.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah, I'm basically like everybody else. I didn't really know much about being a lawyer before. Maybe that was a poor research choice on my part. But I kind of had no idea what I wanted to do, and maybe to some extent I still don't. I will say the professors at WNL really guided me through that. I know Kathy talked about Professor Shapiro, who is amazing, and I love him. But my legal writing and my con law professor, like, they were really good at introducing, or a lot of professors are just good at mentoring at WNL, and they introduced me to what clerking was, which is not something a lot of people know about before law school, which is just where you work for a judge. So it's a nice, WNL is at least a nice place to like be guided through different things you might want to do. And then, I ended up at a firm because I really became interested in litigation. I have no business touching business things. So that was kind of my process through, but it certainly took me until like halfway through law school to really decide what I wanted to do for the first couple of years afterwards.
Great. Thank you so much. I know there's so many great mentors here that are your professors, and sometimes they become a friend-tor. I just said it. Sorry, I said it. But I know that there are different reasons, people, come to law school and you see so many neat things come out of the other side. But that's one of my favorite. I really do love seeing when students show up that first day or first year and then they're doing something else. So outside, I hope, of your current practice areas, I hope you have time to sleep, but also to be involved in the community where you are. And that might look a lot of different ways, but are you doing anything law related with your service work outside of your practice area or your, current, area? Yeah.
Yeah, I think as a public defender, the most that I do outside of this work is really with the local resources and trying to, guide them in ways they could help our clients or educate the community about, substance abuse issues or housing issues or things. But I don't have anything formal outside of PD work just because, quite frankly, PD work will take up so much of your time. And every day looks so different for me in terms of if I'm in court, or like today, this afternoon, I'm going to be back in court. I'm in court all day tomorrow. And then I have an office day where I set up meetings. So I don't do too much like pro bono outside of that. I know that other offices in the metro area, and the reason I'm touching on this is like I have friends who do it. They'll volunteer their time to do like expungement clinics or deregistration clinics, or they have like a clear your warrant day. So we'll volunteer our time for individuals who aren't necessarily our formal clients, but have outstanding matters that they need some legal advice on. And we can offer those services if we have time. And sometimes we'll do immigration stuff. There'll be, an email that goes out to all of us that will say, hey, if you have some time to volunteer. So sometimes there's opportunities to do that in PD work, but a lot of us are so focused on our clients, and that can take up so much of our time for any sort of other pro bono work. So I don't do too much of it, but some other attorneys, there are opportunities if you want to.
Thank you. Okay, Ben, what are your thoughts on time outside the office?
I personally haven't gotten the opportunity yet to jump into any pro bono work, mostly because I started relatively recently at the firm. But after a project that I'm currently working on sort of ends, I'll have much more time. And so I'm hoping to jump into an empowerment fund that's offered through my firm that kind of helps municipal local governments create financial empowerment incentives, initiatives for people within the community, and they're expanding to outreach for people under 18, and so they need lawyers to sort of help them navigate that expansion of their outreach. And so that's one thing that I'm hopeful and excited to kind of get involved in the coming weeks.
That's great. I know, I think so many young alums, if you're 5 years out, Kathy, or 1 or 2 years out, you have your whole life to get involved in different ways. And some come sooner, some come later, but it is neat to meet with alumni who keep adding on. And you wonder how they can practice and find time to work, do these service opportunities. So Trey, how about you?
Yeah, luckily, our pro bono opportunities are sort of handled in-house. So the firm has a bunch of different streams and partnerships that ultimately send different projects our way. I'm looking at my desk. I've got this sticker. It's like pro bono champion. It's nice because Troutman, they give you 100 hours. I think most firms do this, but they give you 100 credit hours towards your billables for pro bono. So that incentivizes a lot of us to participate in some matters. All my pro bono work to date has been in the veteran space. I have represented a couple of veterans who had some less than honorable discharge, and so we're petitioning whichever armed service board to give them an upgrade for a variety of reasons, whether it's mental health, maybe they're discharged under don't ask, don't tell, for whichever reason. And so we're asking the boards to correct their records so that they can get access to educational benefits in most cases. Last year I did a lot of pro bono because we had a case that ultimately ended up before the Supreme Court, which I kind of hopped on right at the time it was being appealed to the federal circuit. And so my involvement started there. It was another veterans benefits case, and it had kind of kicked up through the judicial process, and ultimately when the federal circuit reversed the panel's decision, then we started putting a cert petition together, and then by some miracle the Supreme Court agreed to take it. And so then, that with that came another round of briefing and oral arguments, and we're hoping to get a decision sometime in the next couple of months. So fingers crossed.
Wow. That's very neat. I'm sure that's been very rewarding to be a part of too. Okay, Sika. How about you?
I think my practice is probably pretty similar to Trey's. We have a lot of in-house pro bono opportunities at Gibson, which I really enjoy. I usually use my pro bono to actually practice in areas that I think topic-wise are really interesting that I don't normally get into. So I've done I do some criminal things just to make sure I can still represent individual clients. I've done some death penalty appeals. And then we write a lot of appellate briefs on behalf of amicus parties, so parties who want to tell the court how they feel about a certain case. One of them is the Trevor Project, which is really near and dear to my heart. So we get into a lot of the litigation about anti-trans bills and things. It's really, I think, important work to do, and it just gives you a broader skill set to be working with, especially if your my practice doesn't allow me to write too often, so I really like pro bono for that reason, and it just kind of feeds the soul. So it's been a really good opportunity.
It's good to find those things that feed your soul. So, well, and I'd love to hear any other future career aspirations that you have. I'm sure each of you have some thoughts around that, and maybe you'll be at the same place for many years, but what are some of your long-term goals or thoughts around that?
It is funny. I get asked this question a lot by like colleagues in the metro area, like, oh, are you going to transfer offices, or what do you want to do, or oh, are you going to become a judge? My career goals is to be a lifelong public defender. Like, I want to be a public defender forever. I love this work. It is so rewarding while stressful, and honestly, like the hardest thing I've ever done, but also the coolest thing I've ever done. Like, I joke with my friends, I get so nervous when I go to trial. I can't eat, I can't drink. I like literally feel as if this person's life's on my hands, and it causes so much anxiety. And in those moments, I'm like, why do I do this? And then, you know, the thing that's on my window that that's artwork that one of my juvenile clients, who we won a hearing for him on a very serious case, made for our office. And like, the rewarding part is a family member calling you, or the thank you card, or the hug when you get their case dismissed, or it's truly the coolest thing, and I can't express that enough. And yeah, I want to be a lifelong public defender, maybe do more training. I love working with new attorneys on cases, but I honestly hope I can do this for the next 20-30 years. So
That's great. Thank you so much. We would advise everyone to eat and drink, be hydrated. I
yeah,
understand
it's
the
not
nerves.
healthy. Yeah, it's not healthy. And if you ever see me in a trial, my colleagues all make fun of me, and my friends make fun of me because I can't eat. I'm so nervous, and I'm like running on adrenaline. And then you're waiting for the verdict, and you're like, I have snacks and candy in my purse, and I'm just like chowing down, like, as like the waiting for the verdict. And like, then I sleep for like 12 hours post trial. So really unhealthy, but it's just like my go-to, and it's really stressful, but really rewarding. But yes, eat. That's really good. And drink. That's not my advice. Don't follow my thing.
We do. Yeah, I just had to say that. We bite
Yeah,
nails. There are a lot of things. So that anyway, and I know, Ben, I'm sure there are things that cause you some anxiety in a different capacity than that, but let's definitely share some thoughts you have around your career aspirations. That'd be great.
Completely. Well, the joke is with my friends that we're going to start our own WNL law firm one day. But we'll see. That's mostly a joke as of now. We haven't made any actual plans for that. But right now, short term, my goal is to just kind of, like I said, be a sponge, learn as much as I can as a junior associate, so that by the time I'm a mid-level, I can be a really effective mid-level. But beyond that, long term, I could see myself either staying at a firm long term or maybe going in-house. It kind of depends on sort of what my experience is over the next few years. And then also I'm still holding out hope to join the New York Yankees legal team one day, but that's the dream.
We gotta have goals. We gotta have dreams. So that's so great. Yeah, WNL law. It would be great for you to practice with your classmates one day. I think there are some people who do that. So, okay, Trey, how about you?
Yeah, I think I'm largely in the same boat as Ben. For as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a lawyer. Now I'm a lawyer, and I'm like, whoa, okay. I didn't know if I'd make it this far, or I haven't really planned beyond that. But yeah, just take as much in as I can, learn as much as I can. Everything I do, I try and do it with the intent of sort of advancing as far as I can. So in a law firm, that means going on a partner track. But I'm also not married to any one particular path. It's I try and take things day by day, and if something changes or comes up, then I'm going to do what's best for myself and my career. But I love my job. I love my role. I love working at this firm. So for now, the plan is to stick around and keeping at it.
It can be one day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month, year. But yeah, you do have time to figure that out. And it sounds like you're on a great path. So, how about you, Sika?
Yeah, well, I will be going through a career change this year because I start clerking in October, so that will be fun. I'll still remain in DC, so if anybody, ever wants to hang out, please feel free to contact me. But beyond that, it's a 2-year clerkship at the district court here. I'm not really sure. I've always wanted to do government service, and that might be an option depending on what the government looks like at that point. But right now it's kind of open pathways, but I'm really excited.
That's great. I know we're closing in. We have about 10 more minutes. Is that right, Lisa?
That's right. There were a couple of questions that came into the chat, if you don't mind, Dean Hughes,
Yeah.
that I'll just
Please.
and then we can
Sorry
wrap up
about
with some closing thoughts, if that's okay. And let me just say thank you to all of our panelists. It's been really fun to hear all of your stories. I'm incredibly proud of you, having known you as you were law students. And so this is definitely a highlight for me to hear your all's trajectory. One of the questions was about, for those of you who have firm experience, for those who are on this call and are really interested in kind of pursuing a similar track, do you have any tips for going the large firm route, maybe to get that summer internship, anything that you found to be really helpful? Ben, if you don't mind. Kathy, I'm going to skip over you for this one, and I'm going to go right to Ben.
Honestly, I thought that one of the biggest assets that I had was at being a WNL law student. The community at WNL is fantastic, and I don't think that that ends when you graduate. And one thing that I found is because people graduate from the small school, they are abnormally loyal to the school. And so I would say just pair, working as hard as you can, especially your first year, because you tend to apply for your summer associate position in the summer after your first year, and then just networking with as many people as you can. And I've even networked with people who graduated WNL undergrad, who went to law school elsewhere. And it's sort of when there's a pool of very able applicants, the thing that kind of sets you apart is that you've put in the effort to network with someone at the firm, and if they were to reach out and to the people who are making the decisions and saying, I spoke with this person, they've expressed a ton of interest and they seem like they could be a really good fit, that was sort of what I found to be the most helpful in my law firm search.
Abnormally loyal. I love that. I do think that's very true. Anything else, Lisa? Was there, or Trey?
I don't know if you wanted us to go around and answer, if Ben's answer alone was enough. I was gonna, I had a little bit of a contrarian answer, so I was gonna let Sika maybe give her take first.
Yeah, I think I do echo Ben, definitely. I saw that this question had plus 251, which I think is a really funny specific number, and I love the specificity, and I had to look up my firm, which is 1,000. So I was introduced to this, like the recruiter at my firm, by a WNL student who was also like being recruited at the same time. And I think it really speaks a lot to like the student body that law students are competitive. That's just going to be the case every school. But even within law school, it really helped me to have just mentors who were our like level, guide me through a process that they maybe have already been through or they know something about. And that was really wonderful. The other thing I'll say is just, and I won't like sugarcoat anything, just try to do the best that you can too. Law firms are picky and persnickety about everything. And you have, a variety of law schools that are good. So that would be my best advice.
And just sort of piggybacking off Sika's last point is that in a lot of ways, big law and getting chosen for big law and OCI, and a lot of it is luck. And a lot of times, they're qualified students who won't get that interview, won't get that call back. And so knowing that, what I would say is that first and foremost, there is more than one pathway into this industry. I have a friend who was a year above me and at WNL who he was interviewing around Richmond, and he was like, "Hey, I'm taking an interview with Troutman. What do you think?" And he ultimately, he didn't choose Troutman, but he went to another big law firm here in Richmond. 3 years think 2 or 3 years outside of graduation. So, and I also have friends who during 3L were able to land gigs and and start full time right after graduation. So there's more than one way in. And I would also say, like, big law is cool, and if it's something you want to do, then pursue it. But it's not the only thing. There's lots of interesting work to be done, lots of great skills to be acquired, just everywhere. Now, I mean, and if it's what you want, that's one thing, but I just wish I maybe told myself that rather than being like, it's big law or nothing, as a law student and even as a 1L. So.
Thank you so much. Dean Hughes, did you have a final question for folks?
Yeah, I'd love to, especially in my role in working with so many alumni. How are you staying connected to the law school or with your classmates? I know you've talked about staying in touch with professors, but we can start with Ben, or I won't go around my circle unless you'd like to start, Kathy.
I was just prepared to unmute myself there. So I don't have to start, but I've already unmuted, so I guess I could go. Yeah, I am trying to come back for the alumni weekend. I'm really stoked. I have a week-long trial that ends on that Friday, and it's a really complex trial. Talk about sexy facts. This one's a really fun one. I'm really kind of excited for it, but it's a really high stakes trial. So I'm trying to see if that's going to go. So I've booked flights, but that's one way. And I'm super excited because some of my really close classmates are planning on going, and we've already got an Airbnb together. So I'm like fingers crossing, hoping I get to go. One thing about PD work that's a lot different than maybe other work, or I've only done this work, so maybe it's similar to firm work, but I don't know. My schedule varies so much because like today I was supposed to be in a trial and was messaging Lisa, like, I don't know, I might be able to make the panel, I might not, I might be getting a verdict right now, I might not, it went away on Thursday of last week. So sometimes my schedule just changes so much, and that's the nature of the beach. But I still keep in touch with professors who put me in touch. I'm actually emailing with a recent grad of WNL right now who's interested in the Colorado PD after clerkship. So I have a phone call with her this week, and a professor got me in touch with her, a professor who's no longer at WNL, but I still keep in contact with him, Professor Shapiro. I adopted a cat actually from a WNL alum out here in Colorado. So, we just stay tight and do lots of things. She named my cat too. So, and she was a Colorado PD and helped get me into the Colorado system as well. So I think WNL classmates, even if I think I could reach out to like any of my classmates right now and be like, hey, you do this kind of work and I'm interested in that. Or like, hey, I have this question. Like immigration law, for example, I'm just rambling now, but I have some classmates who do immigration law, and sometimes I have like a complex immigration question about my cases that I'm not quite understanding. And sometimes I'll just reach out and be like, hey, are you willing to like chat with me really quick about this? Like, I'm not going to like give too much client information, but generally. And so I don't know. I think WNL is such a great community. I say that all the time. And we have a really good reputation. So even in the PD world, when people see my diploma in my office or know I went to WNL, they are thrilled to talk to me about that or my experience at law school. So you kind of get in touch in different ways, but mine are all random cats and immigration law and things like that and friends. But, but yeah, I couldn't say enough about the community.
Sorry, can we jump in right after this because I have to go in a second.
Yes.
I'll definitely, I'm going to drop my email into the chat in case anybody like wants. Please feel free to reach out to me with any other questions. I love calling with people, and this is a fun thing. I'll just say that I see my law school classmates all the time, like pretty much every week in DC. It's just a lot of people move here from WNL, and I'm sure it's kind of a similar experience in Richmond and New York because just a lot of people go there, and Colorado as well. And it's just really wonderful. You do meet like great people at WNL who become really good friends. Like the amount of weddings I have to go to that are WNL people marry each other are just kind of nuts to me, but it's really great. It reminds you that law school is also just like school too. So you should, it's easy to bond with classmates, and that bond stays really strong. But it was great to see everybody. I'm so sorry I have to hop off.
Thank you. I know we got to wrap up. Any last words, Ben, Trey?
Yeah, I'll just jump in and say that I love the community so much so that and to demonstrate it, I convinced my younger brother to also go to WNO Law. He's a current first year. And also my girlfriend's a 3L, so I've visited many times. I love the community. I'm going down this weekend actually to visit them. So it's very easy to stay in touch with, your friends both during and after. And, like Sika said, weddings, trips, everything. I talk to my friends from law school every day. So it really is a tight knit community, and that kind of it's a really nice thing to kind of take with you even after you leave Lexington.
Right.
Very little to add. I'm
Okay.
fortunate to work with a bunch of alumni, including Carson, who's in that office, who's a classmate of mine, and we summer together and now work at the firm. But yeah, I talk to my classmates every day, see them. All my closest friends are from law school are in DC, and see Sika quite often. But we're in touch, and it's great to have such a broad network of attorneys you're connected with, because like Kathy was saying, if someone's got some expertise, you can sort of just pick their brain really quickly, because you have this great network of people with access to, and it's always fun catching up with folks. So do whatever we can to stay in touch and to spread the good word about WNL.
Great. Thank you so much. I know time is up, and I hope today was really helpful for everyone. Thank you so much, Lisa, for inviting me. It was so nice to see these very, very young alums, and appreciate your time. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thanks to our panelists. Thanks to Dean Hughes. And thank you all for your attendance today. Please reach out if you have any questions. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks.